Hello, I'm Bruce Belfiore and host of the CallTalk podcast as well as of the CallTalk video caramels. And I'm really happy today to be welcoming Nicholas MacDonald, Director of the Customer Experience at C-Lect Consulting and lecturer at the University of Maine. How are you doing today, Nick?
I'm doing well, and thank you, Bruce, for having me on the show.
Delighted to do it, and we just finished up the podcast version of this CallTalk. And so if you're interested in that, please take a look at it. I invite our listeners to do that. Nick is a graduate of Ashford University with a bachelor's in organizational management and an MBA in finance and information systems. And he's got a long experience and very productive career with Machias Savings Bank before he went academic and consulting. And he's a big believer in the power of small incremental changes, and he'll share his approach with us there. On top of everything else, and he's had a very active and productive career, he owns and operates a small goat dairy farm and has a strong passion for horsemanship, spending his free time training his young quarter horse. So the first thing I just have to do, Nick, is you are the very first goat farmer that we've had on CallTalk. So I have to milk that for all it's worth. Pun fully intended here. And so how did that happen?
It is definitely a path that I never saw for myself.
It wasn't your childhood dream to be a goat farmer, huh?
No, it was my childhood dream to be, say, a horse stable owner or something like that. But maybe someday for that. The horses, the goats, that came in from my husband. He had them growing up, and so we got a couple goats. We had some chickens, a couple goats turned into 4 goats, and then all of a sudden we had a whole herd, and now we're making dairy products. So it just developed over time.
Great. So you can go home and do some milking of the goats. I have milked cows myself. I know how to milk a cow, but I've never milked a goat. I have to say that. So anyway, but I'd like to start by asking a question about your background, and then we'll ask you some questions about a few of the topics that we went over on the CallTalk podcast. But if you could say a few words about your operation in Machias and your background there, that would be good for our audience to hear.
Absolutely. So at Machias Savings Bank, I started out as an entry-level agent. And what really hooked me about the MSB culture was a small town feel, and that everyone at the organization truly cared about the customer and employee experiences. I rose through the agent ranks by carrying on that care for the customer, and eventually moved into contact center leadership. And I worked diligently over time by moving the contact center from a siloed system to an omni-channel contact center solution.
That's a big thing to do, I know. But if we could drill down on what you call your family first philosophy, because I think hearing about this would be good for our listeners, particularly given the title of this episode. And it includes community involvement and imparting employee engagement and teamwork to the whole group.
Absolutely. At Machias Savings Bank, it was clear across the organization that we were encouraged to take time to be with our families. But our CEO really put it the best way. He would say, if your son or daughter is having a game or a concert or some sort of special event and you're at work, your mind isn't at work, your mind is at that event. Your mind is wishing you were there, supporting your kid. So he would say, that's where you should be, because you're not giving your best work right now. So we really lived up to that within the customer service team. We cared for everyone on the team as if they were a member of our own family. And if they ever had something happen, some sort of major life event, or their kids were in a concert, we supported that family member as if they were a part of that family.
This is really an exceptional kind of situation, just in terms of the listeners or the viewers of this video. Giving an idea of how big you are, you're about 23 people in the center, and 60 people sort of in the overall group there. And so just also to give a sense of reality to this, to those people who may say, God, I'd love to have what Nick had, but it's so hard to make sure people are going to act responsibly in these situations and that you can actually do the kind of backup that you're doing. Were there some challenges just to, make people feel a little better about what their situation might be?
Absolutely. It wasn't always sunshine and rainbows. We had, occasionally we would have some people that would take advantage, wouldn't necessarily plan ahead. And a sporting event may be seen as an emergency instead of a planned event, when we know that all of those schedules come out well in advance. So what we would do, we being the team leaders and myself, is work with the agents, coach them to be mindful of what they're asking for, but don't be discouraged to ask for it. Just plan ahead and ask for these different events.
Okay, so I think that's really interesting to hear and important to hear, because what you're saying too is that proper scheduling and flexibility in terms of swapping, time periods, etc., combined with that family mentality. Okay, so if you start off with I'm going to try to back people up, I'm going to be backed up by the people I work with, and then you say, okay, now how do I put that into action? And you're saying in some cases people have to be coached as to how to do that properly. And
Absolutely.
Okay, so actually what I'm talking about is flexibility on my scheduling, which the company will allow, and it will make sure that the company gets the staffing that it needs. Could you tell us also about your approach to job growth and the customer contact operations? Because we all know that professional growth is a challenge in a lot of centers that have flat organizations.
When I moved into leadership, I tried to open the possibilities up. Because when I first started as an agent, I even felt a little bit of that restriction and saw some turnover of people moving on or leaving because they didn't see the future within that department. They loved the team, the people on the team, but they wanted to be able to continue to grow. So what I did is I developed a culture that if somebody wanted to learn more about another area of the bank or other possible contact center roles that we didn't have at Machias Savings Bank, I would support them, whether that was doing a training, such as one from BenchmarkPortal, potentially. I would connect them, get them set up to learn, and encourage them to continue to grow, because that would directly affect the performance of not only the contact center, but the bank as a whole. And we had this program where people could do a walk a day within another department. So they would choose 3 to 4 different departments across the bank, and they would go spend a day or two with that other department, whether it be asset management, a business banker, potentially the front line, so right in the branch, to learn more of how the other parts of the bank run.
Okay, and this is a great way of doing the silo busting that we've always been very big proponents of, because it gets people into work. There's nothing like walking a mile in somebody else's shoes, right? And so if you spend a day with them, looking over the shoulder, talking with them, understanding them, and perhaps even going to lunch with them on a regular basis thereafter, as you understand how understanding each other can be important for you, both yourself and your company, that can be a huge thing. So thank you for that. And also in terms of people who actually do move on from the contact center to other parts of the organization, the whole alumni approach that we have advocated fits in very well, I think, Nicholas, with what you're talking about, because that way, instead of feeling like you're losing people, you feel like you're graduating people, and you make them feel like they'll always be part of you and you'll always be part of them by having sort of an alumni network inside of the organization that you can also call on later on to find out information, to understand if there's issues going on there that are kind of a mystery to you, but that these former colleagues can help you out with. Well, listen, we're at the end of the time that we have together, Nicholas, but this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us, and we wish you the best. Is there any final message that you'd like to leave for us?
So thank you, Bruce. I do have one final message that I'd like to share with everyone that's really driven me forward for at least the past couple of years. It's just a constant reminder to be present, listen to others, and always know that everyone has a story.
Okay. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.